Imagine taking a toddler, dropping them into a totally chaotic, insanely loud strobe light nightclub and shouting over the music, "Go make friends!" I mean, it sounds terrifying, right? You'd never do that.
No, it is the absolute definition of a sensory nightmare.
Right.
Yeah.
Yet, that is exactly what thousands of, well-meaning people do to their boxer puppies every single weekend.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Welcome to today's deep dive. We are super thrilled to have you with us. So, in our last deep dive, we talked all about the boxer's genetic blueprint.
Right, the history.
Yeah, we explored their historical courage, their intense curiosity, and that famously deep emotional attachment they form with their people.
Which is such a huge part of the breed.
It really is. But as we established last time, a blueprint is literally just potential. I mean, it doesn't build itself.
Exactly. You can have the best architectural drawing in the world, but if the construction crew is just, chaotic, the house is still going to fall down.
Which brings us to our mission today. We are exploring the actual construction phase.
The messy part.
Very messy. We are decoding the crucial developmental window between 8 weeks and 18 months of age. We want to show you exactly how your boxer's environment during these months determines whether that century-old genetic blueprint builds a confident, joyful family member.
Or a totally chaotic, highly anxious one.
Exactly. Okay, let's unpack this, because if you are sitting in your living room right now, contemplating bringing one of these dogs into your life, you are about to take a theoretical design and smash it into a very messy reality.
And you simply cannot build a sturdy house on a cracked foundation. The transition from that genetic potential to a real-world breathing dog in your living room, it starts way before you even buy a leash.
Right.
It actually starts with the breeder you choose.
Yeah, and the veterinary consensus here is just impossible to ignore. A massive amount of future behavioral and health problems are either completely prevented or permanently locked in right there at the source.
It's so true.
For a breed like boxers, I mean, a responsible breeder isn't just a nice family whose dog happened to have puppies. They are meticulous.
Very much so.
They are doing very specific genetic health testing, and one of the most vital things they do is cardiac screening.
Yeah, and this is a perfect example of why the foundation matters so much. Right. Boxers are genetically predisposed to certain heart conditions.
Like ARVC.
Exactly. Arrhythmogenic ventricular cardiomyopathy. Essentially, the electrical system of the dog's heart can just misfire.
Wow.
So a responsible breeder screens their adult dogs using Holter monitors to ensure they aren't passing those faulty electrical blueprints down to the next generation.
Because finding out your energetic 3-year-old dog has a fatal heart arrhythmia is it's a devastating experience for any family.
It's completely heartbreaking.
It is. And, beyond the genetics, there's the environment. Good breeders are raising these puppies right in the middle of a home environment.
Right, in the living room or kitchen.
Yeah, they are exposing them to normal household noises, vacuums, dropped pans, the television, not isolating them out in some quiet barn or kennel somewhere.
Which makes a huge difference.
But the detail that really changes the game for the person taking the puppy home is the timeline. The standard practice is that puppies must stay with their mother and their littermates until at least 8 weeks of age.
Or ideally, 9 or 10 weeks.
Right.
What's fascinating here is it's the underlying biological mechanism of why those specific weeks are absolutely non-negotiable.
Okay, tell me more.
Well, it comes down to early social learning. When we think of training a dog, we usually think of the physical commands, right?
Like sit, stay, fetch.
Exactly. But the most important learning a dog ever does in its entire life is about self-regulation.
Interesting.
Take bite inhibition, for example. This is a dog learning exactly how much jaw pressure is acceptable to use during play.
Oh, that is huge.
It is. And here is the catch. Human beings actually cannot teach this as effectively as another dog can. It gets taught almost entirely through puppy-to-puppy feedback while they are still in the whelping box.
And for those who might not know the term, the whelping box is just that safe, contained little swimming pool-like area where the mother gives birth and the puppies spend their first several weeks stumbling over each other.
Precisely. They're tumbling around, wrestling constantly.
Like a puppy mosh pit.
Pretty much. And when a puppy bites a littermate too hard during that wrestling match, the littermate lets out a sharp, painful yelp and immediately stops playing.
Ah, I see.
Instantly, the biting puppy learns a crucial lesson. They learn, that specific level of pressure ends all the fun.
Right.
That constant repetitive feedback loop teaches them to soften their mouth. If you pull a puppy away from that litter at 6 weeks, you are literally robbing them of the most critical weeks of that natural peer-to-peer education.
Which perfectly explains the most universal question every single new owner asks. Why does my 10-week-old boxer puppy use my ankles as a chew toy? If you are listening to this and you've got scratches all over your hands, you need to hear this. I always think of it like a toddler who was pulled out of preschool before they learned how to share.
That's a great way to look at it.
When a puppy is biting you, it's not because they're aggressive. It's usually a mix of two very practical things.
Right.
First, physical teething. I mean, their gums are throbbing, and chewing provides genuine physical relief. But the second part is that incomplete education. They just haven't finished preschool yet.
So it actually becomes your job to finish the curriculum.
Yeah.
You have to step into the role of the sibling. When the puppy bites your hands too hard, you replicate that exact littermate feedback.
You don't yell at them or tap their nose, right?
No, absolutely not. You give a high-pitched, sharp yelp. You completely pause the interaction.
Yeah.
Tuck your hands away so the fun stops entirely.
Right. Ignore them.
Exactly. And then, after a few seconds, you redirect their mouth to an appropriate toy. It is essentially a game of Simon Says, where your reaction dictates their next move.
You are explaining the rules of human skin, basically.
Yes, and it requires immense consistency.
You are literally hardwiring their brain. But obviously, before you even start doing that, you have to actually pick the puppy you are bringing home.
True.
When you are looking at a litter tumbling around that whelping box, behaviorists note that temperament testing matters 1,000 times more than sex.
It really does.
Which surprised me initially because I feel like the first thing everyone asks is, should I get a boy or a girl?
Oh, it is a massive distraction. Sex might dictate like a 10-pound size difference when they are fully grown, but temperament dictates your entire next decade.
Wow, 10 years.
Easily. Within a single litter of 8 puppies, you will see a massive behavioral spectrum. You have the bold, reckless puppy who charges headfirst at every new object.
Right.
And you have the cautious, observant puppy who hangs out in the back corner.
So which one do you want?
For the vast majority of families, you want the puppy right in the middle.
Yeah.
The one with moderate confidence.
Goldilocks puppy.
Exactly. That's the puppy who is curious about a new toy, maybe gets startled if you drop your keys on the floor, but recovers within seconds and goes back to investigate.
Makes sense.
That specific temperament transitions into human family life far more smoothly than the extremes on either end.
Okay, so you have chosen your moderately confident puppy. You've secured the solid foundation. Now you actually bring the puppy home.
The big day.
And if you put yourself in their shoes for a second, you really get a sense of how completely overwhelming that first night is for them.
You really do have to view it through their eyes. From their perspective, they have just been abducted by aliens.
Seriously.
They have suddenly left the only family, the only smells, the only temperature, and the only physical environment they have ever known.
That's a lot for a baby animal.
It is. How you manage their physical space in those first 72 hours sets the psychological tone for their entire development.
And this is where establishing a designated sleeping space is crucial. Specifically, a crate. You set it up in a quiet but accessible part of the home, maybe a corner of your bedroom or just outside the door, somewhere they can hear you breathing or hear you shifting around, but calm enough for them to actually settle down.
Because they need that proximity.
Right. And yes, if you are dreading it, crying on the first night is totally normal. I mean, they are lonely.
Very lonely.
But the hardest advice in the world to follow is to not immediately rush over and reward that crying with attention. Because the second you do that, you teach them that screaming is just a remote control that summons the humans.
It's classical conditioning right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do want to push back on this crate concept for a moment. Because to a lot of people, especially if you've never used one, isn't locking a highly social, affection-starved dog in a metal or plastic box kind of punitive?
It totally feels that way to us because it is a very human projection to view a crate as a cage. We think of, being locked in a closet.
Right, which sounds awful.
But if we look at the psychology and the biological instincts of the dog, it's completely different. Dogs are den animals by ancestry.
Okay.
Furthermore, boxers are incredibly physical, high-arousal dogs. Their nervous systems are just constantly firing.
Always on the go.
Exactly. A crate leverages their natural instinct not to soil the small space where they sleep, which makes it an indispensable tool for house training.
Oh, that makes sense.
But emotionally, it provides a crucial, safe retreat from overstimulation. It's a physical boundary.
So it's not a punishment?
No, not at all. When you introduce it correctly, using positive reinforcement, feeding them all their meals inside it, throwing a blanket over the back to make it dark and cozy, it is absolutely not a punishment. It is their bedroom.
I love that.
It's the one place in a chaotic, noisy human house that belongs entirely to them.
That makes perfect sense. They need a place to decompress just like we do.
Exactly.
And speaking of house training, the physiological timeline here is a great reality check for anyone getting frustrated.
Oh, definitely.
Boxers are a highly intelligent breed. They are incredibly food motivated. You can teach them the intellectual concept of going to the bathroom outside relatively quickly.
You get it in their heads fast.
Yeah. But the physical reality is that full biological bladder control takes 5 to 6 months to develop.
It's pure anatomy. The sphincter muscles that literally hold the urine in have not fully formed. The nerve pathways from the bladder to the brain are still under construction.
Right. So when you're staring at a puddle on your rug and getting super frustrated at your 4-month-old puppy, you have to realize their brain literally did not get the signal from their bladder in time.
It's not out of spite.
No, you can't train biology to move faster than it's growing. You're just managing their environment, taking them out every hour until their anatomy finally catches up.
Exactly. You are their external bladder control for the first half year of their life.
Very well put. So you've survived the first few weeks. The puppy is safe inside the house. The crate is established as their bedroom. But a dog doesn't live its entire life inside your living room. They have to learn to interact with the outside world.
Right.
And for a boxer, a breed that is so intensely, almost exclusively oriented toward human beings, this weatherproofing phase is absolutely make or break.
This raises an important question. What does the timeline for that weatherproofing actually look like?
Let's hear it.
Veterinary behaviorists are incredibly strict about this. The critical socialization window for a puppy is exclusively between 3 and 14 weeks of age.
Wait, 14 weeks?
14 weeks. That is a breathtakingly short window of time.
It's practically over by the time you've gotten used to having them in the house.
It really is. And the reason for this rigid timeline is deeply biological. Before 14 weeks, a puppy's brain is exceptionally plastic.
Meaning adaptable.
Exactly. And by plastic, we mean it absorbs and hardwires new experiences almost instantly, like wet cement.
Okay.
Biologically, wild canines are wired to explore their den area fearlessly during this time. But right around 14 weeks, a biological switch flips. In the wild, an older pup needs to start being cautious of new predators to survive. So the brain literally shifts its default setting from curiosity to fear response.
Wow. The wet cement starts to dry.
Exactly. They are forming permanent, lifelong associations about what is safe and what is dangerous in the world.
That is wild.
Which is why the most critical behavioral takeaway here is that quality of socialization matters infinitely more than quantity. One terrifying, overwhelming experience during this 3 to 14-week window can create a permanent negative association that you will spend the next 10 years trying to counter-condition.
And this is exactly where I think people get socialization completely wrong.
Oh, all the time.
We hear the word socialization and we think it means throwing the puppy into the deep end of the pool, right? Taking a 12-week-old puppy to a crowded dog park on a Saturday afternoon with 20 adult dogs sprinting around.
Which is a terrible idea.
Going back to my intro, doing that is exactly like taking a toddler, dropping them into that chaotic, loud, strobe light nightclub, and expecting them to just figure it out. Their nervous system is entirely overwhelmed.
Completely fried.
Contrast that with a structured puppy socialization class, which is like a well-managed kindergarten classroom. The teacher's there, the interactions are closely supervised, and if a puppy gets overwhelmed, they get a gentle timeout.
That is the perfect distinction. True socialization is not a free-for-all party. It is carefully controlled exposure.
Right.
It's strategically walking them over different surfaces like gravel, wet grass, or shiny linoleum floors, and giving them a treat so they learn the ground won't swallow them.
I wouldn't even think of linoleum as scary.
To a puppy, it's like ice. It's also playing recordings of thunderstorms or fireworks on your phone at a very low volume while feeding them chicken, gradually increasing the volume over weeks.
Smart.
It's having people different ages, wearing bulky winter hats or carrying umbrellas, toss them high-value treats from a distance.
And it's also preparing them for a lifetime of maintenance.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. Crucially, it's Gentle, systematic handling of their paws, looking inside their ears, and checking their teeth while they
So
relax.
they get used to it.
Right. You do this so that when they go to the vet for the rest of their life, they aren't completely terrified and fighting the staff. The goal of socialization isn't maximum chaotic exposure. The goal is building a highly predictable pattern of calm confidence.
Building a pattern of calm confidence. I really love that framing.
It's everything.
But let's be real for a second. You spend all this effort meticulously building that calm confidence out in the real world. You expose them to the umbrellas and the shiny floors.
Right.
But then you walk through your own front door and suddenly this 40-pound physical powerhouse turns into a pogo stick because they are just so thrilled you're home.
Yeah, that's the boxer way.
Even a confident boxer is still a boxer. And true to their working breed history, they are physical powerhouses. We have to address how to safely manage their intense energy and their, frankly, ridiculous playstyle before they reach full adult strength.
They are a high arousal breed, meaning they go from 0 to 60 in a heartbeat, and that translates directly into how they physically interact with you in the home.
Let's talk about the jumping, because if you have a boxer, you know exactly what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
Boxers greet the people they love with full body contact. It's the kidney bean dance, the jumping, the body slamming, and that literal boxing motion with their front paws where they try to wrap their arms around your waist.
It's intense.
It is. And it's important to clarify something right off the bat. Jumping like that isn't disrespect. It's not dominance. It is completely untrained excitement.
It is pure affection without a braking system.
Yes. So how do you install those brakes? If you try to push them down, it totally backfires.
Because to a boxer, a push is a shove, and a shove is an open invitation to wrestle.
Exactly. Instead, you have to withdraw your attention completely. You give no eye contact, you don't say a word, and you keep your hands glued to your chest.
Total statue mode.
You turn your back until the dog physically settles down, and the literal second all four paws are on the ground, you turn back around and reward them with calm praise.
But the catch is, every single person in the house has to do it, or the dog just learns to gamble on who will tolerate the jumping.
Right. Consistency is key.
Which brings us to the broader physical management of that energy. How do you actually exercise a dog with that much raw enthusiasm without accidentally breaking them in the process?
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because if you ask almost any dog owner for advice on hyper puppy, they will parrot the same cultural trope. A tired puppy is a well-behaved puppy. Just run them until they drop.
I hear that constantly.
You see people taking 4-month-old boxers on 3-mile jogs or throwing a frisbee for an hour straight. But looking at the veterinary data, we really need to dismantle this myth. Because treating a puppy like a marathon runner is incredibly dangerous.
It is profoundly dangerous. This is one of the most vital misconceptions we need to correct today.
Please do.
You have to visualize what is happening inside the dog's body. Boxers are a large breed. At 4, 5, or 6 months old, their skeletal system is entirely immature.
Meaning the bones aren't solid?
Right. Their joints and growth plates are essentially soft tissue. They haven't calcified into solid bone yet.
Wow.
If you try to physically exhaust an excitable boxer puppy with forced repetitive exercise, like long sustained runs on pavement or repeatedly jumping down from high places to catch a ball, you are creating microscopic traumas in those developing joints.
That sounds awful.
And those microtraumas will manifest as severe, painful orthopedic problems, like early onset arthritis or torn ligaments later in their life.
So what is the actual limit? If I can't take them for a run, what do I do?
The standard orthopedic consensus for growing large breeds is the 5-minute rule.
Like a 5-minute rule.
Yes, it dictates 5 minutes of structured, forced exercise per month of age, twice a day. So a 4-month-old puppy gets a 20-minute structured walk twice a day. That is the limit.
Wait, 20 minutes for a 4-month-old boxer? Are you kidding?
Nope, that's the science.
If that's all the exercise they get, they are going to eat my drywall out of pure boredom. How do you possibly burn off their energy if you can't physically exhaust them?
This is the absolute secret to raising working breeds. You don't use their muscles to tire them out. You leverage mental fatigue.
Mental fatigue.
Mental fatigue is exponentially more exhausting to a dog than physical fatigue. You make them think.
Give me an example.
Instead of a fast walk around the block, you take them on a sniffari.
A sniffari. I love that.
It's exactly what it sounds like. A walk where the goal isn't distance, but letting them intensely smell every single blade of grass, every fire hydrant, every tree trunk.
Okay, so just letting them lead with their nose.
Right. When a dog is deeply inhaling scents, they are heavily taxing their olfactory cortex, the part of the brain responsible for processing smells.
Which is huge in dogs.
In dogs, that cortex is massively complex. Taxing it burns immense calories.
Yeah.
A 20-minute safari is doing complex calculus in their brain. It exhausts them.
That is brilliant.
You also use puzzle feeders, so they have to work to unlock their meals rather than just inhaling it from a bowl in 10 seconds.
And you incorporate training.
Yes.
But again, you have to be smart about it. Boxers have notoriously short attention spans. They are incredibly eager to please, but they get bored very easily.
Very easily.
If you try to drill them on obedience for an hour, they will just check out and wander away.
Yeah.
You want to do like 3 minutes of highly positive, food-motivated training.
Keep it quick.
Yeah, you teach them a new trick, you end on a huge high note with a jackpot reward of 3 or 4 treats at once, and you walk away. You leave them wanting more.
Exactly. You are aggressively protecting their immature skeleton from damage while systematically exhausting their brain. It is a much safer, much more effective way to create a settled, peaceful dog in the house.
Okay, so we've managed the physical energy, we've protected the skeletal frame, but constructing a stable adult boxer also requires managing their emotional architecture.
Absolutely.
And boxers have a very unique emotional makeup. We touched on this in our last deep dive, but their deep orientation toward humans, meaning they will literally follow you from the kitchen to the bathroom to the couch just to be in your line of sight, is hardwired.
There are shadows.
It is a fundamental breed characteristic. It is not a training failure.
It is exactly what makes them such incredible, loyal companions.
Yeah.
But, it is also their biggest vulnerability.
How so?
If an animal is that deeply fundamentally attached to your physical presence, your absence can easily become a source of profound panic.
Separation anxiety. It is a huge issue for this breed.
Right.
So how do you proactively build independence into a dog that was literally genetically engineered to be your shadow?
You have to build their tolerance for being alone systematically and entirely without drama.
Without drama.
You start with tiny, almost absurdly small increments of time. 1 or 2 minutes.
That's short.
Yes. You put them in their crate or a safe room with a high-value chew. Something like a hollow rubber toy stuffed with peanut butter and frozen solid.
Oh, nice.
Something they find absolutely irresistible and only get when you leave. Then you calmly walk out of the room. You come back before they even finish the treat, before they have any chance to get anxious.
Set them up for success.
You gradually stretch that time out.
Yeah.
But the most critical piece of advice here is about your own emotional regulation as the owner. When you leave the house and when you return, it has to be a complete non-event.
So no emotional, sweeping Hollywood goodbyes at the door. No, mommy's going to miss you so much. Be a good boy.
Right, and no chaotic, high-pitched greeting parties the second you walk back in.
That's hard to do.
It is, but it's essential. Dogs, and boxers especially, are emotional sponges. They constantly read our heart rates, our facial expressions, our breathing patterns.
They notice everything.
They notice that when you pick up your keys, your breathing gets shallow, you rush around, you have this tense, sad energy. They absorb that tension.
Interesting.
If you make a massive emotional deal out of leaving and returning, you are signaling to the dog that your absence is a major stressful event. If your comings and goings are incredibly boring and routine, the dog absorbs that calm energy and learns that being alone is boring, but completely safe.
Wow. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it really feels like the owner is acting as a sort of emotional shock absorber for the dog during these first 18 months.
That's a really great analogy.
You are insulating them while they figure out the world. And it's important to remember, you aren't doing this alone. You have a proactive partnership with your veterinarian.
Absolutely.
Because while you are protecting the dog's emotional frame at home, your vet is helping you protect their physiological frame.
It is a critical partnership. It's not just about getting the standard puppy vaccines up to 16 weeks so they don't catch parvovirus.
Right.
It's using those early vet visits as high-quality socialization, bringing treats, letting the staff feed them, making the cold metal exam table a positive place.
Rather than a scary one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's also monitoring their growth rate at every visit. Keeping a puppy lean is essential. It prevents excess weight from bearing down on those soft developing joints we talked about earlier.
Which is huge.
And given the boxer's genetic blueprint, your vet is the one having those early conversations with you about exactly when that breed-specific cardiac screening should begin.
It is also deeply connected. The health, the training, the environment, the genetics.
All of it.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? When you step back and look at everything we've unpacked today, from the bite inhibition in the breeder's whelping box, to the crate training, to that wildly short 14-week socialization window, to leveraging mental fatigue,
It's a lot.
raising a boxer well is ultimately a profound act of stewardship.
That is the perfect word for it, stewardship.
You aren't building a dog from scratch. You are being handed a century-old blueprint of courage, curiosity, and incredible connection. And your job, your only job, is simply to provide the safe, structured space for that blueprint to develop properly.
You are the project manager of their potential.
I love that.
Yeah.
And if you manage the project correctly with patience and consistency, you end up with exactly the dog they were always meant to be.
So true.
But there is one final piece of the puzzle that we have to mention before we go.
Oh, right.
You can do everything right. You can have the best training, flawless socialization, perfect mental enrichment routines, but a growing boxer's joint development, their brain function, and their overall body condition rely almost entirely on what is sitting in their food bowl every morning.
You have to provide the right building materials.
Exactly. So next time, our deep dive will cover the surprisingly complex, incredibly nuanced world of boxer nutrition. We'll look at what actually fuels this construction phase from the inside out.
I'm really looking forward to that discussion. And just as a quick reminder for you listening, this deep dive is for educational purposes only. If you ever have concerns about your dog's health, development, or behavior, please always consult a licensed veterinarian or a certified behaviorist.
Always. But before we wrap up today, I want to leave you with a thought, a question to just sort of mull over on your own.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time today talking about that tiny, incredibly strict socialization window, 3 to 14 weeks.
Right, super brief.
A window where a boxer's permanent adult temperament, their lifelong fears, their baseline confidence, their automatic reactions to stress is essentially hardwired into their brain as the wet cement dries.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder, as human beings, how much of our own adult fears, our own core confidences, our own automatic emotional reactions were permanently locked into our own socialization windows before we even had the vocabulary to remember them.
Oh, wow. It's a profound thought.
Yeah.
We're all built on a foundation we didn't pour ourselves.
Something to think about the next time you catch yourself reacting to a loud noise. Thanks for joining us on today's deep dive. We will see you next time.